Hello, everybody. Welcome back to ESPN's Football Forecast with myself, James Alcott, and my good friend, Hugh Woozencroft. We are here to talk about the weekend's games, probably the biggest game of the weekend. So much news swirling around Man United, and they take on top of the table Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Not the game you really want as your first game in the Premier League if you're Michael Carrick, who stepped into those shoes, but probably not for too long. But it looks like he's going to have to deal with this game. We'll dive into that in a second. But let's start off with Chelsea, who people aren't talking about too much because there's just so much going on with Man United. But this Chelsea side are absolutely fantastic right now. Great win in midweek against Juventus. They're not conceding. I think they've conceded 4 goals so far this season in the Premier League. Top of the table. Life is good for Chelsea. But are they the best team in the world right now, Hugh?
I mean, there's a real argument for that when you look at the stats that they're producing right now. I think they've conceded 22 goals in Thomas Tuchel's first 50 matches in charge. That equals Jose Mourinho's record the season, if you'll remember, some of us do, that Chelsea conceded just 15 goals in the entire Premier League campaign, aka their best defense ever. And the reason that I think they're so special is, especially when you look at that defense, there is no, all right, we've got Thiago Silva there, but look at his age, well into his mid-30s. And he is currently probably the best defender in the Premier League. And then you've got Trevor Chalobah and Andreas Christensen, players that we haven't spoken about before being at that high level. Of course, Chalobah's new. Christensen's been criticised previously. Antonio Rudiger has been turned around totally. He could be off playing for Real Madrid next season. I just think Thomas Tuchel has transformed them. You look at even the wing-backs, Ben Chilwell, who I know got an injury and might be out for a while, but he's a player that so many people had question marks over. When Marcus Alonso had come back into the team and looked like he was going to make the wing-back spot his place. Look at how he's come on in such a short space of time. Look at Reece James, who looks absolutely brilliant, scored a wonderful goal. But then you go to the midfield and it's pure quality. What is interesting for me is the way that the movement in the final third has been in the absence of Romelu Lukaku. They've looked so fluid going forward. You've had players interchanging. Christian Pulisic's come back into the team. He's done well. Hakim Ziyech has come back into the team. He's done well. But you've got people like Callum Hudson-Odoi as well. Timo Werner just came back from injury, but got a goal against Juventus as well. And you wonder whether Romelu Lukaku, look, he's not going to hold Chelsea back, is he? Of course he's not. But are they going to be as fluid?
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm not sure. They might have to tweak things slightly when he returns. It might not be as good as Chelsea, but right now you've got to look at the league and say no one looks like they're going to stop them at this point.
Yeah, I think, look, but the thing you can rely on is that Tuchel can tweak it and find a way for it to work. I think it's just been so much more glaring in the last few weeks to see what he's done. Because as you say, yes, there is great quality and a lovely blend of youth and experience in that Chelsea squad. But Tuchel is getting the best out of them, and he's also rotating them all. There are so many games. We always talk about this with Liverpool. You have to rely on a lot of the same players a lot of the time. With Chelsea, so many changes, and they look fantastic every single week. And I think that bodes really, really well for the rest of the season because, I've done a couple of interviews recently with a few managers, and they're talking about this stretch now. So many games. It's such a difficult time for these clubs, and you've got to use the squad right. And that's what Tuchel does so well. He gets the best out of those players. And when we look at the Chelsea squad and this Man United squad, if we take away his recency bias, in terms of name for name, there's a lot of big names in that Man United squad, but they clearly haven't been coached very well. You said it last week. It could be the end for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer before that Watford game. You were right. I'll give you the props on that one. And Michael Carrick steps into the fray now. It was a good victory against Villarreal. It was very conservative. Do you think that's got to be the game plan for Man United going into this game against a Chelsea side that are just so intelligent?
I think he has to protect the players at Manchester United. Of course he does. They're about to get a culture shock with the new interim boss coming in. We think will be named very, very soon. Probably has been by the time you've watched this video. But I think in reality, he needs to protect himself as well, Michael Carrick. He needs to show that he can put out a side that is at least competitive against a team as good as Chelsea. And Manchester United, in their big game so far this season, they have not laid a glove on the opposition. We know they were beaten 5-0 at home by Liverpool. But even the win against the defeat against Manchester City, even though it was only 2-0, they didn't get close to Pep Guardiola's side. And I think if that happens once again, then Carrick's role as a coach long term is probably under massive scrutiny. So I think for him, He'll be conservative once again. It'll mean it's very unlikely that Manchester United win the game. But we know on the counter-attack, they've been good. Away from home over the last year, they've been very, very good. Of course, they had that long unbeaten run. So could they emulate something like that blueprint against Chelsea here and maybe get themselves a result? I think it's possible, but I think yes, in answer to your question, he has to be pretty conservative once again. I am interested to see the lineup because a couple of players got left out. Bruno Fernandes, was he being rested for this game against Chelsea, or is that a bigger issue going on? I'd like to see what happens with him. So look, I think it's going to be a really intriguing contest. Manchester United fans will be looking forward with hope at what the next era, if you like, might have for them. But I think Chelsea fans, the ones that I spoke to, were basically saying that the draw against Burnley felt like a defeat. It doesn't feel like in the race for the Premier League title, you can drop any points. Their major concern is going to be taking all three. And I think they will, to be perfectly honest. It might be boring. It might be 1-0. I don't think the Chelsea fans will care. I think if it goes desperately wrong for Manchester United, we could see something like we saw against Liverpool, maybe even Manchester City in terms of the control that Chelsea have over the game, but a similar scoreline. I'm tempted to say Chelsea 3-0, to be perfectly honest. What about you?
Really? I think there will be a bit of a response from this Man United side. I also think they will be very defensive in it. I think it's a big game for, say, someone like Mason Mount, who might be able to sort of find those little spaces because it will be congested there because I think they will defend quite deep, Man United. But I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I think it could be maybe just a 1-0 victory for Chelsea just because they're just on fire at the moment and Man United might not have that confidence to get them over the line. I think the important thing is in that first half, if you're Man United, do not concede, because if you do, I can't see them getting anything from this game because they're going to have to open up, and then I think Chelsea could take real advantage. I think Chelsea will be too much on this occasion, but I think it's a good time to play Man United before this culture shock happens, because we're expecting a response from Man United for the rest of this season, because there's going to need to be one if they want to get themselves in the top four.
Hi, I'm Hugh Wisencroft from ESPN's Football Forecast. Make sure you're subscribed. You can follow all of our predictions throughout the season and get some other great analysis from our big names as well.